Rosemary burns. On that faint light and smoke, the ancestors come. The mind quiets the heart, steps aside for the soul to rise. Dagaz on this day, directly in line with the sun, begins all time again. On this summer solstice, all 24 runes surround you in a perfect wheel. You are the directions, the spirits of space, and the intersection of time and timelessness. Through that joining, you find not meaning, purpose, above or below, in or out, but everything, all. Yet you have not transcended yourself. You aren't on high with the holies or without shadow. You are ego light and firmly grounded in your story, in your flesh. In this center you stand, the axis to draw up wisdom and rain down actualization. Enlivened by the staves, you are the passionate youth and the wise elder around which wholeness spins, always. Hi everyone, I'm Kelley Harrell, and you're listening to What in the Weird. You just heard the invocation from my forthcoming book, Runic Book of Days, which comes out in September and is available for pre-order now on Amazon. Before we get started, I'd like to thank everyone who's listened, called in, and dropped me notes. It's been great hearing from you. I began What in the Weird 6 months ago under Yara, not knowing where it would go. I still have no idea where it will go, and I love that about it. I love that informality, and I love that you love it too. Thank you for saying. Indeed, Dagaz is upon us. In the north, we prepare for summer solstice, while the southern hemisphere approaches winter solstice. The weekly rune to that end came out this morning, and for those who are subscribed through Patreon, it came out yesterday, ad-free, but check it out. A couple of times a year, I publish the full runecast, unadulterated, all the frills, the version that people pay for, so that you can see the difference. If you read it this week at soulintentarts.com, you'll be reading the full, uncensored version with all the bells and whistles. If you want to show your support for the weekly rune, you can search for it on Patreon, and thank you for doing that. Also, if you become a patron or matron in the next 24 hours at the Sederkin level, you'll receive the runecast of the summer solstice, as well as a few other goodies. If you want the simplified free version, you can always subscribe to it through my website, soulintentarts.com, and thank you for that also. The image of the runecast is always on my Instagram, which is Kelley Soul Arts, and it's also on the blog posts at soulintentarts.com. So, Dagaz. What's the big deal about Dagaz and summer solstice? In the widely accepted runic calendar, Dagaz marks the end of the first year, which means closure, reviewing of cycles, how to go forward, making plans. And if you're not clear on the whole ordering of the runic calendar, go a couple of episodes back in What in the Weird, and we discussed that. So, in the northern tradition, this time of year was the first of summer, though other ancient European traditions called it midsummer. Geography is everything in terms of how you experience this solstice, but definitely Sabbats in general. And this brings me to a point that you and I have talked about before, which is that we don't necessarily have the same experience of season that the ancients did when they created what we consider the template of how we honor Sabbats. We have internalized that pagan equals Western European, and that's just not true. That's just the flavor that has most widely stuck. In reality, there are countless pagan traditions with all kinds of observances, rituals, and even names for the different Sabbats. So I highly encourage you to come into your own awareness of what summer solstice is and what it represents. And honestly, I would love to know that. If you work from a framework that is different than Western European, Letha Sabbat expression, I would love to hear about it. I would love to learn about it, because I just feel like in general it's unfortunate that we assume everybody does summer solstice the same way, when in reality it's just not even possible that we could. We don't live in the same places. We are not having the same cultural experiences historically, let alone right now in the moment. And I've also been a bit bothered that we assume that our Sabbats are supposed to fit the exact template of what they did for the ancients. I don't live in Western Europe. I don't live in Northern Europe. But I do have some observation where I live of how solstice functions exactly where I live. It's a whole lot hotter here than it is there. So I'm not having the exact same experience that's been rolled out as the template experience for summer solstice. And I'm sure that most people really aren't. How does it show up in your life? What does it symbolize? How do the nature spirits of your location acknowledge solstice? What does it mean to them? I would love to know the answers to those questions from your perspective. And you know by now, with me, it's all about how you connect the half-month rune into your relationship of time and place, where you stand. And now is a really big time and place in the year. Dagaz is often discussed in terms of extremes of light and dark, but I'll let you in on a little secret. It's not about the extremes. Look at the shape of the stave. What's in the center of it? What sits at the midpoint of triangles meeting? If you said everything, you win. That tiny spot of stillness in the middle is what Dagaz is about. And that moment doesn't last long. Could we handle it even if it did? With that bright spotlight comes distinct tension, which is exactly what we hope all of our prep through the year has gotten us ready for. Summer solstice is the longest day, but the exact moment of solstice, which is this Thursday, it's June 21st, and technically it occurs at 10:07 Universal Time. That exact moment doesn't last long. Does it matter? I don't know. Maybe it doesn't matter to you. Maybe it's a really big deal to you. It depends, I guess, on how much weight you put on summer solstice in your spiritual observation and how it connects you to place. It also probably depends on if you're part of a group and if you recognize high ritual in your group. But I encourage you to sit in that tension and just allow it, if you can, at the point of solstice, and see what's there. See what you find in that moment after all this work that you've done, after everything you've done to get ready for this transition, this initiation. The Summer Solstice Runecast through Patreon goes more into the details of that stillness and what it means to us spiritually and psychologically, how we can make the most of it. How will you make the most of it? I would love to know. Email me, Kelley at solentonarts.com, or by calling in through the Anchor app, which is how I record What in the Weird. And you can download Anchor for Android or Apple to call in and listen, and also check out earlier episodes. You can get it from Google Play or iTunes. And if you get a chance, check out Everyday Animism, which I co-host with a couple of lovely ladies on Anchor as well. You can learn more about me and my work by visiting solentonarts.com. I hope that you have a bright, light, and wonderful solstice. I hope whatever you find in those moments of stillness brings the blessing that you need to carry you through this new year. I'm Kelley, and this has been What in the Weird.